Hi, my name is Austin Southcott, and the strategy I've chosen to talk about is paraphrasing. I remember using paraphrasing going through high school, and I really enjoyed it. I think it helps you put your own thoughts and concepts together about a certain topic, and that's really when you start to understand something completely, is when you can create your own thoughts and associations with it. The book I used is called Teaching and Reading in Social Studies, Science and Math, Practical Ways to Weave Comprehension Strategies into Your Content Area Teaching, and it's by Laura Ross. It's a really good book. It's got a ton of strategies for social studies, science, and math, and just by reading through those strategies, I've kind of came up with some of my own strategies to use in physical education, just by seeing the strategies that they have through the book. So that helped me a lot there. The purpose for paraphrasing is to teach students how to write ideas and definitions in their own words, and to show how paraphrasing supports note-taking and recall. That last part is really important. Students are paraphrasing every day when they take notes, and that's, like I said, a great way to put your own concepts together, and also it helps speed up the process of writing down a bunch of words. Instead of writing down a whole sentence you just heard your teacher say, you can paraphrase it, write down a few words, and when you go back, you'll remember all the things that she was talking about when you just see those couple words. So paraphrasing is super helpful in note-taking and recalling things when you go back and look at your own work. Like I said, the book shows how paraphrasing is useful in math, history, science, and later on I'm going to show you how I would incorporate it into a PE class. It's beneficial to these subjects because they involve concepts and memorization of terms, and having students paraphrase information they have learned is a good way for teachers to see what information was taken in and what wasn't. So as a teacher, when you see a paraphrase that a student has written and you can tell that there's not really a whole lot of content knowledge in it, and it's just really broad sentences that aren't really telling you much about the actual subject, you know there that either they don't know how to paraphrase, they've never been taught, or they have always just copied and pasted things. That's a big problem with younger students, is the copying and pasting. It's really easy, and they don't have to come up with their own thoughts because of that. Another reason why a student may not be able to paraphrase well is they don't know the information well enough to put it into their own words. They've never practiced how to put ideas into their own words. You have to practice that. And the last reason they may not be able to is they don't have the process for paraphrasing, and they've just never been taught how to do it. Paraphrasing in math, it helps students correct their areas and their errors without overwhelming them, and helps students visualize their mistakes as well. Seeing your mistake on paper right in front of you is an easy way to correct it, just by seeing what you did wrong. So an example that I have is students would write down the entire problem with the errors that they made on the right hand side, and after they reread and think about the process that it takes to get the answer, again, that's a big part of paraphrasing in math, is actually rethinking the process that it takes to get there, and then they'll redo the problem and fix the mistakes on the left hand side of the paper, so that way they can see both products right in front of them, the wrong and the right, and see what changes they had to make. And also, that's a good study tool for them to go back if they need to look at that for a test coming up that you may have went over that 3 weeks ago. They can go back and look and see the mistakes that they made so that they don't make them again, and see how they can fix them too. Also in math, that's a great way because you can check yourself in math. You know the answer, you can go back and check to see if you actually got the right answer as well. So that's a good way to teach them how to do that too. Paraphrasing in history, it's beneficial in history because a lot of history is memorization. You have to know information and comprehend it before you can paraphrase it. And so in history, you have to understand what happened in a war to be able to paraphrase what happened in the war. You'd have to remember the main events that happened in the war to be able to paraphrase it, things like that. So the example I have here would be like a chapter review. If the chapter was about a peace treaty between two countries, there would have to be some major occurrences throughout the peace treaty between the countries, maybe meetings or killings or wars inside of the peace treaty to get it figured out. You would just have to ask them short answer questions and let them tell you without a word bank or just certain words that they have to use, tell you in their own words and their own associations of the subject what they feel like happened. So paraphrasing in history is really important too, because like I said earlier, the note taking and going back and recalling what was went over in the class. Paraphrasing in science. Science also calls for a lot of memorization. So students learning to use the knowledge they've been taught throughout a lesson is important in determining their ability to paraphrase the information. What that means is the information has to be understood by the student before they can put it into their own words. The example I have here is students use pictures to show their favorite subject, and they must write a caption under the picture describing what it is, what it does, and why it is their favorite. I like this because not only are you giving them the freedom to pick their favorite part of the subject and pick the picture that they draw. It's an original drawing, so you're going to let them use their imagination. The caption lets them paraphrase and talk about what they actually learned about that subject and why they like it so much. So I really like that, and I got that idea from the book. But for like elementary school, middle school age, it would be a really good and useful lesson. Paraphrasing in PE works a little bit different. There's no desks, students don't have pencils and paper. So when you paraphrase in PE, it happens verbally and visually. When the teacher's instructing a skill or a movement, the students we'll have to see it and be able to demonstrate it or describe how it's done in their own words before they're going to be able to do it. They're going to have to practice it. So it works a little bit different, but there is still paraphrasing in PE. The example that I have for review at the end of the day or the end of an activity, students will have to be called upon to answer questions about rules and strategies. So if we were going over a football lesson, I might have the class group up at the end and I would ask them questions about maybe how many yards does it take to get a first down. And they can paraphrase about other things that have to do with getting first downs, like running a ball to get a first down or passing a ball to get a first down, things like that. I could ask how many quarters are in a game, and they can paraphrase to me what they've learned about how long the quarters are, how many timeouts do you get to stop the clock in the quarters, what are other ways that the clock gets stopped in quarters. Strategic things also, like defensive things, or maybe are you going to run to bring the defense in for a deep pass, things like that. They can paraphrase and talk about and not have to actually say everything that they've learned. They can just say the few main points that they learned about the subject. So like I said, it's kind of tough and it wasn't in the book, but my best way to implement paraphrasing in PE would be that way, just about strategies and rules for sports, or maybe correct and safe movements for a certain lift, weightlifting, things like that. So that's really all I could come up with for the PE, but I think if I got it and worked with it a few times in a PE class, that I could definitely get it to work out and have it benefit me and the students. So that's all I have today for paraphrasing. it was a good lesson that I learned through the book, and a good strategy that I learned as well, and I really enjoyed doing it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed.